Okay. Waiting for my agenda to load for some reason. Anyway, welcome to today's meeting of Leicestershire and Rutland Combined Fire Authority. The meeting's being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube for viewing after the meeting, and the link will be available on the CFA's website. Please ensure that your mobile phones are switched to silent. Apologies have been received from Mr. Rushton, Mr. Grimley and Mr. Gatturaya. Mr. Bannister, Mrs. Fire and Mrs. Seaton are substituting. And Callum Fate, the Chief Fire and Rescue Officer, is joining the meeting remotely. Do we have any declarations of interest or about items on the agenda, please?
I'm an ex-employee of Leicester Fire Service.
Thank you. Anyone else? So we need to be advised that there are no urgent items that I've decided to take as urgent. So we'll move on to the chairman's announcements. A copy has been circulated separately, and I'm going to highlight certain aspects of that, which was that the planned inspection of Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service is now officially underway. The inspectors will be in the service from the 7th of October for a 3-week period. This is the most intense period of the inspection. The service welcomes the inspectors and is keen to show them how it has continued to develop the service offered to local communities. Inspection results are likely in early 2025. On the firefighters' charity, in 2023-24, Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service raised £70,717 for the firefighters' charity. And that's a fantastic effort. So I hope we convey our thanks to all those that took part in the fundraising initiatives. This will enable the charity to support fire and rescue service personnel through sickness and rehabilitation, perhaps allow them to return to work, and it promotes and supports fire and rescue service staff, retired staff and their families in their health, social, financial well-being at all life stages. I think that's a very good effort by all those that are involved in that fundraising. So public participation, CFA rules of procedure and member questions. We've received no formal questions. And we need to confirm, first of all, the minutes of the meetings of the Combined Fire Authority held on the 24th of July and on the 18th of September. And I notice that, so let's have a look at these first. These are on pages 5 to 12 of the agenda pack. And I noticed that on the minutes of the 18th of September, the meeting was held at Leicester Town Hall and not County Hall, as it says on the minutes. So sorry, that needs to be altered. Are there any other changes that we need to look at? Seems not. So I'll move that the minutes of the meetings held on the 24th of July and the 18th of September 2024 be taken as read and signed. Can I see a seconder, please? I didn't see who that was.
Mr. Allen. Yeah.
Mr. Allen, thank you. Can we vote on that? So we agree. Thank you. Item 7. We need to consider the minutes of the Corporate Governance Committee meeting held on the 23rd of July 2024. These are on pages 13 to 22 of the agenda pack. And any comments on those minutes or alterations? So we accept those as a true record. So I'll move that the minutes of the Corporate Governance Committee held on the 23rd of July be noted. Can I see a seconder? Mr. Allen again. Thank you, Mr. Allen. And we accept those minutes as it's a noted one. The first main item on today's agenda is the revenue and capital outturn for 2023-24. And it's going to be presented, I think, by the head of corporate financial services. It's on pages 23 to 30 of the agenda pack. Colette Sutton, who's the head of corporate financial services, is going to present the report. Over to you, Colette.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. So what we have here then is the final outturn for 23-24. So the year ended 31st of March this year, 2024. The draft final accounts were published back in August on the external website on the 12th of August. This is the internal management accounts, which are presented in a slightly different way for management purposes internally. So the actual outturn for the year was a deficit of £71,000, as shown in Table 1. Expenditure was overspent by 1.3 million, but that was offset against additional income of 1.28 million pounds, leaving the net overspend of 71,000. The extra income was largely favourable interest rates for around 600,000, and there was also additional grant income as shown in the report, again around 600,000. The main overspends were on employees, as shown in the table. That was 617,000. And as you'll see from the notes below, that mainly related to firefighters' pay. There was an overspend mainly due to a higher pay award than budgeted. And there was also a recruitment drive for firefighters ahead of the Day Crewing Plus exit. There were also overspends on pay awards, on-call staffing and training. Moving on to the capital programme in Table 2, there was a capital budget for the year of £8.7 million, and we actually only spent £3.8 million. The reasons for the slippage are shown below that table, mainly on vehicles and property, supplier delays, and various reasons to do with property services. And it's recommended that the £4.8 million is carried forward into the current year, into 24-25, which is one of the decisions for this committee today. Usable reserves are shown in Table 3. There's £23 million in reserves, and they are detailed. So there's a general reserve which helps smooth out any unforeseen pressures, a capital fund reserve to fund the capital budget, the estate strategy reserve, that's 8.5 million, and that includes £6.4 million for the new learning and development facility. And then there's some various other smaller reserves, budget strategy reserve, again, to help smooth budgeting, and some smaller reserves. It is noted, however, that although they are called usable reserves, they have been earmarked for specific purposes. So, for instance, the learning and development facility within the reserve that I just discussed, the estates strategy reserve. The mobilisation project, which is one of the largest capital projects for the organisation for some years, that's a £5 million project over 5 years, replacing the current system and moving us to a cloud-based solution. During the year, £952,000 costs were incurred, and they were funded as already approved from the reserves shown in that table there, mainly the capital fund reserve, budget strategy reserve, infrastructure reserve, and some monies from the Grenfell reserve. Bad debts were written off during the year for Forge Health Limited, which was the trading arm for occupational health services, and that ceased trading in in October 2023. There was a small amount of write-off, £3,600 of 12 invoices. Are there any questions?
Move the report, Chair.
I've got one question on this, which is for point 6, which is about the overspend of almost 20% on the budget. That's my calculation, so I hope my maths is okay. On the budget of 3,932,000. That's almost £4 million expenditure on that item. On the 5-year condition survey and also software maintenance, are these foreseen expenditures, and how much allowance is included for inflation if it was to do with inflation, that there's that discrepancy there?
Which paragraph are you on? Sorry.
Sorry, I'm working off my phone because it won't download.
Oh, I can see the condition survey.
Yeah,
That was a one-off cost.
yeah.
To inform the estates, the 5-year estates strategy. It's coming back to committee very shortly. As far as I know, that was just a one-off cost, so inflation wasn't relevant. But the computer software maintenance of 106,000. Yeah, I guess some of that would have been inflation.
Yes.
Thank you. I haven't got a nameplate, so just for the record, it's Hilary Fryer.
Yeah.
Yes, mine is on the vehicles, page 26, paragraph 14. That there's slippage there of rather a lot of money because of the delay in the supply of the 7 new appliances. And apparently this is for the supply, but it says that they hope to arrive in 24-25. I just wanted to know if this is still on schedule, 24-25, and I'm presuming that as it hasn't been hasn't been caused by the fire and rescue service, that we haven't outlaid very much of this money, which is not due to anything that happened here. I could understand if there is a deposit has been made on these vehicles, but if a large sum has been paid and we're not getting the use of these vehicles, is there any compensation or interest?
Are you able to answer?
Chair, Callum has raised his hand, so I think Callum would answer this question. Boss?
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, members. Apologies for not being there in person. So thank you for the question. The appliances have now been delivered. All 7 are with us. And when I checked last week, 3 of them had entered service and 4 are due to enter service this week. The delay and the slippage is basically caused to chassis availability, where we can't necessarily get the Scania lorry chassis to start the build process. That's a global supply challenge rather than anything we can potentially control. But just to allay your feelings, we do put a relatively small deposit down and pay at various stages when they reach the build stage. All 7 are now with us, and that money has now been spent in this financial year. But obviously that will be shown when we close the accounts at the end of this year. Hope that helps, Chair.
Thank you very much. Reassuring.
Are there any other comments or questions on this report? Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, you've not got a name tag. I would. I'm
Brenda.
you by name.
Brenda. Hello, mine's item 10 on page 25, an overspend on uniforms of nearly £500,000. If it's an overspend, what was the budget for uniforms in the first place? Because obviously an overspend is spending more than you.
Yeah, it's a bit of a complex issue whilst it's showing as an over. Boss, do you want to come in or do you want me to answer?
You can answer it because it's probably clearer for the room, and if there's anything else I can add, I'll come in at the end.
Thank you. Whilst it's showing as an overspend, about 2 years ago, the service undertook a piece of consultation work with the public around changing its uniform on how we look with the public. So we used to have T-shirts and sweatshirts. We then went out, engaged with the community around what they would like the firefighters to look like. It came back that we would switch to a polo shirt and different trousers. The money for the overspend is we went live on altogether on day one. So whilst the contract is over a period of time, the cost is hit us at the beginning, but it will in years 2, years 3 will level out. So we've spent all the money up front, so everybody looks the same from day one, rather than integrating it as and when crews wanted or needed to change their uniform. So it will level itself out. It was one big hit right at the beginning. And also added to that, we've increased the establishment by 63 new recruits. Again, their uniform requirements were hit right at the beginning rather than spread over the period of time that we would envisage the uniform contract to last. Is there anything you wanted to add on that?
No, I'll just be repeating what you said, Senna. Thank you.
Thank you. I think if I was here 2 years ago, I would have been asking the question why going out to public consultation over the uniforms. And I would have thought that it would be better to go out to the staff and say, what would you be more comfortable in? But that was 2 years ago. And
just for reassurance, staff were engaged in the whole process.
Yeah, I'm sure they were.
We undertook a peak as members will recall with Dr. Christian Morgan around how do we engage with the whole of the community? What are the barriers to getting into certain community groups, and having a look at how a firefighter looks or is dressed. There's lots of issues around in certain communities around lack of engagement where they see somebody in a uniform. So we did the piece of work to try and how do we break down those barriers? How are we perceived? It was a really good piece of work. It's having real positive impacts around our engagement within the community. Staff have been fully on board with it throughout the whole process. The staff, how they feel around their uniform as well, how they own it. We think by the staff owning the uniform, the community accepting the uniform, we're trying to break down those barriers around community engagement and community safety.
Thank you.
This is it.
Can I say, as a local councillor, I thought it was a very good exercise because it did raise the profile of the fire service out there in the community. So for that alone, I thought it was very helpful. I know out in my community, I did speak to a number of residents, and they were very pleased to actually sort of know that they were going to be consulted even on something like that. So it was more about raising the profile of the service for me, and I think it worked well. Thank you.
Chair, I think the boss wants to come in.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Paul. I think as well as the visual integration with the public, there's also a few other things that we wanted to incorporate for the benefit of our workforce. So, for example, the polo shirts are better at wicking sweat and moisture away from the body. Now, generally speaking, that doesn't have too much impact until you go into a 400 degrees centigrade house fire, where it's really important that moisture isn't in contact with your body. So it improved the health and safety operating procedures for our staff, as well as the image. Equally, the trousers we moved to, they're a cargo style trouser, but they also incorporate ripstop technology. So in the event of a moving blade contacting them, it will foul the blade up to protect the leg underneath the leggings. So there is important health and safety stuff. And equally, I'm sure the authority are happy to kind of underpin this. We're very keen to improve the equality and diversity of our workforce and inclusion. So along with the new uniform came in a much broader array of cultural aware and maternity provision, so that we could really look to offer as best inclusion as possible to all of our community when they join the service. So yes, it was a big expenditure in this year, and ACO Western's right, over the coming years we expect to see that drop off. It wasn't just about integrating with the community whilst it's important, it was about providing a diverse range of workwear for our staff, encompassing all of the protected characteristics, but equally improving safety across the board as well. And they're all factors we had to consider. But I do strongly believe over the lifetime of the contract, which I believe is another 3 to 4 years, we'll see those costs come well within budget, probably even lower than budget year on year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. If I can come back on that, that's exactly the answer I was looking for, that the staff had weighted more opinion on the health and safety of the staff than the public consultation. I accept public consultation would have been a good PR way forward, but it has to be for the comfort of the staff and the personnel. Thank you.
We've got any other questions or comments on this? Yes.
Could I just, not that I'm looking for a fireman's uniform, but could you tell me what's happening to all the old stuff that's coming back?
Chair, we don't necessarily take the kit back because it's almost end of life. It's like T-shirts or trousers that are worn. What we do now, we've moved over, is we encourage our staff to put it into the clothes banks, usually to support the firefighters charity, but it's kit that can't be worn again. It has come to end of life. It is worn. It's uniform that it's been debadged. We ask all our staff to debadge it and then put it into the charity banks. But there is a requirement to debadge it. So
it will be recycled, in other words.
Yes, it's going to go through recycling.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good news. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No, in that case, then I move that the revenue and capital outturn position for 2023-24 be noted, subject to external audit. The carry forward of £4,868,000 of capital funding into 24-25 be approved, and the transfer of £23,000 from the budget strategy reserve and £48,000 from the recruitment over establishment reserve to fund the revenue overspend of £71,000 be approved. Can I have a seconder, please? Mr. Harrison?
Thank you.
And can we vote on that? Thank you, that's carried. So we'll move on to item 9, which is Treasury Management Strategy. And this is on pages 31 to 56 of the agenda pack. And again, Colette.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a brand new Treasury Management Strategy for the organisation. As you'll be aware, Leicester City Council have been managing Treasury management on our behalf for the past 10 years or so. And that arrangement formally ended on the 30th of September, whereby Amy Oliver is no longer Treasurer, and I've taken over as the Treasurer and Section 112 Officer for the Fire and Rescue Service. So this strategy is an initial strategy up to the end of March, and it will be reviewed based on feedback and will be enhanced as part of the budget setting process to be signed off at CFA committee in February next year. So within this strategy, then there is within the paper, there's a draft Treasury Management Strategy in Appendix A, a proposed scheme of delegation in Appendix B, which shows the roles and responsibilities of the CFA, the Corporate Governance Committee, the Chief Executive, and the Head of Corporate Financial Services, or the Treasurer. That's myself. And then in Appendix C, discusses the Treasury Management statutory role of my post as the Section 112 Officer. So the report itself discusses the legal requirements and accountancy requirements. We've been supported in producing the strategy by Arlene Close, there are external treasury management advisors, and they provide advice to around 150 local authorities. So they support us on a daily basis. The report includes the SIPFA definition of treasury management relating to the management of the organisation's borrowing, investments and cash flows, including banking, money market and capital transactions, and the management of risks associated with that. We have the background here, again, the statutory requirements, including the requirement to balance the budget and provide value for money. And then I'll take you straight into the highlights of the strategy itself. So there's an introduction, there's a set of recommended prudential and treasury indicators. So those performance indicators will come to this committee twice a year in a treasury management report discussing how well we're performing against yesterday, 1st of October, we actually received £26 million back from Leicester City Council, which is now being invested in a variety of counterparties, which we'll look at in a moment. So the strategy includes our treasury limits. It also shows our cash and long-term debt at the end of March 2024. So on page 40 in table 4, it shows that we had £16 million in cash and cash equivalents at the 31st of March. And as of yesterday, that was 26 million. Our short-term debt at the end of March 24 was £1 million, and our long-term debt was £10 million in table 5 and table 6. The long-term debt mainly relating to the building of the new headquarters. Table 7 shows our estimated debt for the next 3 years. So starting at 10 million, decreasing to 7.5 million. The treasury management advisors have also put an economic section talking about interest rates and so on. The main table in this report on page 42 is table 8, and that shows the recommended amount of money that we can invest in various counterparties. So, for instance, banks, we wouldn't be looking to place more than £2 million with an individual bank or a building society, less so with building societies. The UK government, that's unlimited, so we could put the entire £26 million into a safe haven, so a government fund. And then with other local authorities, the limit is 3 million. However, Leicester City Council have agreed to support us to the end of January 2025. And if we did wish to deposit up to £20 million with Leicester, this strategy asks for permission to do that. And after the end of January 2025, Leicester City Council limit would revert to £3 million, the same as any other local authority. But the decisions are, of course, based on the most favourable interest rates prevailing at the time, whether that be Leicester City Council or another authority or any other form of money market funds.
No.
Just moving on then to the appendices on page 46, the Treasury Management Policy Statement in Appendix I. And then Appendix 2 are all the recommended prudential and treasury indicators, and that discusses the purpose of those so that we can manage our investments and manage risk. Appendix 3, that was Arlene Close's economic background and interest rate forecast. Appendix B is the Treasury Management Scheme of Delegation, so that looks at the roles and responsibilities of CFA, Corporate Governance Committee, and the Chief Exec and the Treasurer. And then Appendix C specifically outlines the role of the treasurer in managing treasury internally, liaising with auditors and external service providers, etc. So as I said at the start, this is the strategy up to the end of March, and then going forward, this will be enhanced for the budget setting process. It's a statutory document that goes with the annual budget alongside the capital strategy, which and they are of course interlinked. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I've seen Councillor Porter indicating he wishes to speak.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for the report as well. You mentioned, you spoke about Leicester City Council, and you've got a limit in terms of how you would invest with local authorities. Normally it's a maximum of £3 million. And you also talk in the report about the principles that you're following, protection of the amount of money you've invested, and not necessarily going for the highest return, because at the end of the day, you want to protect what money you've got. So I was a bit, coming from Leicester City Council, I'm a bit concerned to see that you'd be willing to give Leicester City Council £20 million when it's been sort of publicised throughout, the Leicester Mercury on the news, that the council's on the brink of bankruptcy. So that would be the concern I'd have. And maybe I'd be looking to withdraw money from Leicester City Council rather than putting £20 million in, because in terms of the local authority, I don't know what position you'd be in if they did go over the cliff. So that was just one thing. The other question as well was to do with Arlene Close. There's nothing, as far as I could see, about their fees or costs, etc. So I'd like to know, really, have a bit more information about what sort of fees they're charging. Okay, those are my 2 points. Thanks.
Yeah, this is the draft strategy. It's here for discussion and approval. The 20 million is a proposed amount. That's not to say that we'd give Leicester City Council 20 million straight back from 26 million pound that they returned to us on the 1st of October. I don't think we'd be looking as the new treasurer. I wouldn't be looking at investing £20 million with Leicester City Council. We're looking at investing on a platform to other local authorities, certainly not ones that are financially unstable, and putting smaller amounts out over varying periods to manage the risk and to manage our cash flows. Because the treasury management function is new to us, there's a lot to be done internally. We have to set up a lot of new systems. We have to manage this daily, whereas previously we had relied on Leicester. We need to set up treasury management policies and so on, and procedures, and they all need to be in place now, really. And that's ongoing. There is a slight transition period. As regards Arlene Close, I think the fees agrees though. I think we're at £5,000 or £6,000 for the next 6 months, and then we'd be looking at a longer-term arrangement, which would have to come to the CFA to approve.
Mr. Harrison, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. All I'd like to contribute to that debate is that it's the safest thing anybody can do is government to government. Local authorities are government. I can remember when the county sent money to Northampton, people laughed and jeered, you'll never see it, and at the appropriate time, the millions rolled back in. So it's as safe as you can be with anything. You're dealing with government, and government would not renege on a debt. So,
Thank you.
Thought.
Mr. Bannister.
Thank you, Chair. I note from the report the CFA will invest its monies prudently, considering security first, liquidity second, and yield last, which is sound principles. I'm afraid I've missed it, and I'd be grateful for you to clarify for me. Why did the City of Leicester return 26 million to the Fire Authority?
As far as I understand it, the arrangement with Leicester City Council wasn't a formal arrangement, and for that reason, it was recommended that Treasury Management came back in-house to the fire service. So the fire service has strengthened the finance function. As you know, my post is a new permanent post, whereas Leicester City Council's treasurer had been supporting it on a part-time basis, and it was deemed necessary that we needed stronger financial management. And since I've been here in the last few weeks, we've also our senior leadership teams approved an internal finance restructure to strengthen the team and the professionally qualified accountants within the team. So as far as I know, that's why it's come back from.
Paul?
Chair, if I may interject, the boss might be able to give a little bit more information from the historic journey where we've been with our finances. Boss.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Paul. So earlier in the year, traditionally, Leicestershire County Council have provided the monitoring officer function for the CFA, and Leicester City Council have provided the treasury function for the CFA. Late last year, early this financial, no, it must have been last financial year, City Council informed us of their intention to withdraw from the treasury function. That was to enable them to focus on their challenging circumstances at the moment, but equally it worked for us as a fire and rescue service to really kind of get that function back in house and have someone working on it full time as the future continues to look challenging throughout the coming years when it comes to finances. So this is a process of now formally the city stopped providing the treasurer function as of the 1st of October, and Colette is now the treasurer for the CFA. The movement of that funds was almost returning our funds back to us, which they were holding. And as part of the deal that Leicester City did, they managed all of this treasury management function for us. So we didn't particularly need to present anything to the CFA in and around that. But obviously now we're setting it back up as the CFA running the treasury and the treasury management. That's the need for us to have this paper today. So we thank, and it would be remiss of me not to thank Leicester City Council for their long and hard work providing the treasury function to us over a long time span that certainly predates me in the authority. So I thank Amy in particular, but also Alison Greenhill, her predecessor, who kind of really helped us through some challenging times. That's why we're installing the treasury management back within the service, and the 151/112 role is held within the service again. Hopefully that answers your question, Councillor Bannister.
It does. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Chair, can I can I just ask for an adjournment just for 5 minutes, just so I can just ask for some clarity off the record, please? Just to stop the. Could I? Oh, sorry. Lauren, could I ask just to stop the wait a moment while we
Yes.
You turned it off on Teams.
Just stop the record.